Three, two, one. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy, and welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys growing on you live. Today, holy moly, another absolute legend, a classic member of the New York hardcore scene. Mr. Craig Setari is going to be on the show here, so I am absolutely super psyched. Cannot wait once we get him on here and joined in. It's gonna be it's gonna be, you know, a little bit of new. There's gonna be a little bit of old, you know, classics. Some of the stuff, you know, dealing with what he's doing right now. Cannot wait. So, Mr. Craig Setari, Mr. Craig Ahead.
What's up, Eric?
Craig, what's up, dude?
Nothing. How you doing? All right?
Man, absolutely wonderful, man. How's the weather over there?
It's pretty hot and humid, you know. I'm trying to set this up so you could see me better. It's like the light was much better on my my phone before I chimed in here. But yeah, there you go.
It's all good, man. It looks fine. Perfect.
Yeah, I got the phone sideways, so you're sideways, but that's all right. It's like you're coming out of my neck or something. You know what I mean?
Nice. So basically, if you've never seen the show before, man. First off, thank you so much and welcome. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you. I appreciate being on. We talked about this. We did a little bit of phone tag, and I saw the episode with Armand last week, and it was fun. You guys were laughing and stuff. It was really good. So, I'm excited to be on.
Hell yeah. So basically, we start off with a couple of icebreaker questions, and then we get a little bit more into the body of the interview, which is just basically stuff about, you know, you and your craft. And then I have a ending finale segment just for you, Craig. So if you're ready, my man.
Okay, hands are up. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. So first off, I mean, you know, you got Craig Ahead, you've got Scully, you've got Cedric, you've got Q, Poppy.
Wow.
Am I missing anything else, dude?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, there's a lot of different nicknames from different people, and along the way they switch depending on the mood. Most of them are just comedy, and came up. Okay. Most of them came up in funny ways. So yeah, there's a lot of nicknames. You know what I mean?
Okay, and I was gonna say, and Armand commented on one of my posts saying, you know, apparently there's something in there with calling you a fathead.
You know what it is? He's just jealous because I have a large head, which means I have a large brain, which we all know means I'm very intelligent. So, you know, he's got that beady little head, so, you know, he gets a little jealous, I guess is the word.
Nice, okay. All right,
that's an old joke, because I wear a size 8 hat, and I have like
shit, okay.
Yeah, most things don't fit my head. I have a big head. I'm the second biggest head in, like, hardcore punk.
You got to get that put on a T-shirt, dude.
I know. A big head means I want to get a shirt. Big head means you're smart.
Oh my God! All right, so we're gonna start this off. Basically, if you could have a dream side project with 4 other members dead or alive, who would it be?
Like, see, that's the thing. It's hard for me to think about who I would want in a side project. But I'll tell you, if I could ever sit in on a session, meaning watch and maybe be taught and play with, it would be the Funk Brothers that were played on all the Motown classics. Yeah, because the way those guys play and the way they present themselves as musicians is like it's of the highest level. And James Jamerson, the bass player for the Funk Brothers, rest his soul, was the greatest bass player that ever lived. And like, I learn a lot of his lines and try to, you know, cop his style, meaning learn his stuff. But it's very educated the way he plays, and I know a lot of his lines. And I even like that song Bull's Anthem. If I isolated the bass for you, you'd see that it's very influenced by him because of the way I do chromatic walks and things like that. That being said, the way he plays he's the best that ever was. Nobody wrote better bass lines. Nobody made a bass sing like James Jamerson. And so to sit in on the Funk Brothers and just be a fly on the wall and maybe have him school me a little and bring me in would be the ultimate. As far as within the hardcore scene, I really can't complain. I've played with every musician, and I played with every musician that I think is tremendous. So I've had the honor to play with, you know, guys like Matt Henderson and Mackie and Rob Echevarria and Armand and Pete and Lou and all these guys that bring their own strengths to the table. Some are tremendous on their instrument. Others are performers with a lot of gusto. My point is, within hardcore, there's nobody I can really, I mean, there's a few people I'd like to play with, but I've pretty much, gotten to the mountaintop with that without trying to sound arrogant. But you know what I mean? Obviously, I've never played with the Bad Brains, and that's like the real stuff when it comes to, like I'd love to sit down with Daryl. I mean, I've played gigs with him and sat backstage and talked to him, but I'd love to take some notes from him directly,
Beautiful. Well, and a lot of times too with interviews, I see, especially in the hardcore community, a lot of times you see, somebody asks about like bands and different things. And I kind of, when I started to ask, reforming that question, there's a lot of people that like a whole, tons of other things outside of the genre. And that's awesome, as far as like, there's tons of things that I like as well, and so it's really, really cool to hear, as far as like Motown or jazz or some of the stuff.
Love
with the
Motown.
older hair metal, that's awesome. I love that.
Beautiful I love Motown. When I came up, it was rock and metal. When I was a little kid, my brother brought home, Sabbath. First thing I heard in 1976 was like, the first Sabbath album when I was like 6 years old or whatever. Early Aerosmith records, Toys in the Attic, Rocks, stuff like that. And then eventually like Van Halen. And then that led into like new wave of British heavy metal, which led into punk and hardcore shortly after that. So, I like all kinds of music. I don't discriminate. As far as jazz goes, I'm not a jazz player. I'm not too familiar with jazz. And whenever I try to examine jazz bass playing, you really have to know very, very deep theory. And it's a difficult thing to play with jazz guys unless you specifically work at being a jazz player. I understand a lot of it, but I'm not spot on for that. I'm spot on for rock music, which is what punk is derived from. So you put me in a rock situation, I'll rock. You put me in a jazz situation, it's not my forte. It would take some training, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. I love it. So now moving on, to the next thing. This is going to be something, it's a little bit newer, but you being from New York, I've got to ask, what is the New York slice? If I'm going to New York, what is the pizza, man? What am I getting?
The New York slice is... all right, New York slice, a classic pizza. It's different than most. It's a basic crust. Usually a New York slice has a type of crust that's really simple. So it's usually not a crust slice, although there are some places that are traditional New York pizza. Like, for example, Armand loves a place called Frank Pepe's, which is excellent. But it's like old Italian immigrant style pizza. Never round. It's always bumpy and messed up on the edges. And they, for example, have their own take on a crust, which I think is the best crust in the world. Then you have a place upstate called JoJo's, which has a special recipe they use on the crust, which makes it extremely crisp. So they have like the best New York style crust, but it's not like this old Italian place, which is like old immigrant pizza. But in a traditional New York crust, it's just simple. It's a white crust. It has to be fairly thin and crisp, and it has to hold up, be as thin as it can be while holding up under a good amount of sauce. Because to me, the key to a New York slice is as much sauce or a good amount of sauce, maybe not as much sauce, but a good amount of sauce that you can fit while keeping a thin, crisp crust from wilting. You can get 1 inch of drop, but after that, it becomes trouble. Now, if the pie's been sitting for 10 minutes, it's going to drop. But I'm talking about within the first 3 minutes, for example. And cheese, not too much cheese. You want a good amount of sauce. You want a strong amount of sauce. Hold on a second. I'll see you later. Drive safe. Anyway, so and you want a good amount of. You don't want too much cheese. You want the amount of cheese it needs. But if you over cheese New York pizza, extra cheese people talk about, or the cold cheese slice,
not it.
No good. No good.
What
so,
what is the one place
it's about
to go?
Balance. For me, it's Amore, a place in Flushing, Queens, on Stratton Street in the Pathmark Shopping Center, where Whitestone Lanes is, the bowling alley. It's right right off the. It's right across from the New York Times building and up about a half a mile. That, to me, is the best New York traditional slice. And I'm going to shout out JoJo's from upstate New York, which is also a very good. It's an upstate, and it's Queens-level pizza. It's really good.
Hell yeah. Okay.
And there's other places that are great, too. Don't get me wrong.
Right. That's, it's a little bit of a newer bit that I've been asking, but my wife and I were actually supposed to come to New York this summer, and obviously everything happened and that fucked everything up. So we didn't get the chance, but it's like I've started kind of I've had different people now on the interview on the show, from out of the country, and I'm like, I should just start asking some local shit to these people that like, what is, stand up to you? So I had to ask Pizza, man.
Yeah. 70s style. Amore is like the perfect like little kid. When you after school slice, you eat it when you're a kid after school. You ride your bike over there and you're like so excited. It's like, but that's the spot for me. It's controversial. A lot of people talk scratch because they know me and my friend Jay, the bus driver, like it so much. So anything that people, listen to me, anytime people talk scratch on someone or something, it means that it's great. Because it means that for some reason they got to work hard to try and shut it down, the haters. So remember that.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. So bringing it a little bit before my time even asking this, but bringing it back a little bit, if you and I were to do some tape swaps, all right, and I ended up swapping you 5 essential albums that you would go on to love today, what would they be? Any genre, too, let me say, because I know you're a lover of music in general. I'm not talking just hardcore. Any genre.
All right. Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life would be one of them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm coming in heavy. I would say Aerosmith Rocks or Toys in the Attic, because as far as like just ripping rock and roll goes, whenever I put one of those 2 albums on and I'm driving, let's say I'm driving and I put those albums on, it's just such great songwriting and it just rips so hard. Mm-hmm. A Sabbath album, it could be Volume 4, it could be Masters of Reality. It depends on the mood you're in. Sabbath, one of my all-time favorite bands. A Motown mixtape with some classics, some Marvin Gaye, some Four Tops, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to throw this in there now, Agnostic Front, Victim in Pain, because that's where I got goosebumps just thinking about that album. I ran into John Purcelli. I saw John Purcelli recently, and we sat down and had coffee, and we were just talking about like the first 7-inch, the United Blood 7-inch and Victim in Pain, and we were both like, dude, the minute I hear that, I just hummed the beginning of the first song, No One Rules, on guitar. I was like, bah-na-na-na. And he's like, I got goosebumps. I'm like, me too. So, that early Agnostic Front stuff, you know what I mean? To me, that's what New York hardcore is. It's like almost like you plant the flag on the moon and people see it, down the line. Like, that's what that is.
Right.
So, off the top of my head, that's the best I could think of. And I did just listen to Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bolt is Love the other day, and I'm like, what a great album. But whatever.
Hell
I don't
yeah.
mention.
Yeah. Okay. Sick. Now, I mean, as far as with your earlier musical origins, where did it all start for you? When you were younger, albums, some music that you heard in the house.
Okay, my brother's roughly 5 years older than me, so we had this friend named Lyman that lived down the block, and he was like the maniac little kid troublemaker, getting arrested and stuff like that. So we would hang out with Lyman, obviously, because he was a troublemaker, and. So when I was 6 years old, my brother and Lyman concocted this idea on a rainy day, mind you, to lock me in Lyman's room with the first Black Sabbath album playing. So it was a rainy day with thunder outside, and the song Black Sabbath starts out with that. Right. And before that, they did some other things to me, which I don't know if I should say. It was pretty mean stuff to do to a kid. They had a needle. And they filled it with water, and they were pretending that they were shooting heroin.
Yeah,
they were pretending that they were shooting up, but they weren't shooting up, obviously. Right. But they were like, let's mess with the kid. So they're pretending that they're shooting up, and like my brother pretends he shoots it in his arm, and he pretends he passes out, and then he acts crazy. So I'm like crying to my brother. They hold me down, and they poke me with the needle a little bit. I'm like, stop. So after that, they're like, all right, we'll stop if you listen to this. In the dark. So I'm like, yeah, just leave me alone, And they put me in. So I'm crying, listening to the Sabbath in a locked room with this thunderstorm outside, and like drops of blood on my arm because they're messing with me. But it's a terrible story. But when you look back on it, it's kind of funny. So that's where I first got into Sabbath. So a week later, I've told people this before. A week later, I went to Lyman's house, and my brother was hanging out there, and I knocked on Lyman's bedroom door. I was like, yo. I'll listen to it again. I'm not going to cry. Lock me in. Turn off the light. I don't care. And I listened to the whole record. And they were like, nah, it's cool. Come hang out. And they gave me some soda. And they were like, all right, kid. Sorry about last week. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Damn. It's a wonder it's a wonder you didn't completely give up on metal right there.
Dude, that's the 70s. That's like the early 70s for you, growing up in Queens. You know, if somebody like Isaac is watching this right now, they're laughing hysterically.
Oh my God, that is such a wild story. I know I'd heard you mention a little tidbit of that before in something else, and I'm just like,
Yeah. I have a handful of crazy good stories like that. They get rehashed because they're so ridiculous. You know what I mean?
That is very ridiculous. Yeah. So now, earlier with bass as well.
Okay.
How and where did you get your first bass? I know a little bit of the story as far as like Dan Lilker,
yes.
You know, and your brother there, but
well, my brother liked rock, so he would bring home rock albums, and then he started going to school with Danny Lilker, and they had orchestra in the morning, so they were both bass players in orchestra, and Danny was obviously very good when he was like 13 years old. Well, he was probably 14 and I was like 10, or he was 15 and I was 10, however that works. But so Danny would come over for lunch. I've told this story before. And at that point, my brother was into like Van Halen and stuff like that. And Danny was like, hey, check out this Motorhead record. So I'm like, oh, this is great, Hey, check out this like Judas Priest record. It's like bring over like Sad Wings of Destiny. I'd be like, that's great. It's almost like blues rock. He's like, yeah. Right. And then like the first Iron Maiden album, he's like, check this out. You're gonna like this. It's exciting. So I'm like, oh wow, this guy's like a lead bass player. It was cool. So right. Danny brought a bass over, an old Guild Pilot with flat wound strings. And my brother was going to play, because my brother was going to play in the first formation of Anthrax, because they were forming that band, because they all went to the Bayside High School. Mm-hmm. So he was teaching my brother, but I was playing the thing 24/7 all day. I'd come home from school, I'd play. Anything he taught my brother, I'd sit there watching, and within a week I could play it all well. My brother didn't care too much. He wanted to like hang out and drink beer and mess around, like be silly. So to me, it was like something I would do every day, and I got proficient at it pretty quickly. And Danny looked like, hey, here's this scale, here's that scale. You see, when you're playing this, you can go up or down. He showed me some rudimentary stuff, and I just took it from there. Once I learned my first like scale or two, once I learned like a minor scale, it was like on. You know what I mean? Okay, this is the major scale, this is the minor scale. Can I go chromatic here? Yeah. Can I go up an extra fifth, even though it's out of key? No, it's not out of key. I go, yeah, it sounds nasty. Bang, 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 and next thing you know, I'm just going crazy with the thing.
Right. Okay. When did blues come into, or when did the whole like Motown, feel? When did that come into, kind of being a little bit of your taste?
Well, I always liked those old Motown songs, but in the early '80s, I was such a hardcore head. I was so into like metal and then hardcore after that I didn't care about anything but that. But I always appreciated the songs, such good songs. And then as I got a little older, I would tour, all the time. When I was 18, whatever, I would always be on tour. So when I would come home, I didn't want to hear music because my ears were blown out and I was all like, battered. So what would happen is I would like, back then you had like a tape deck in your car, and I would like play this old Motown mixtape. And I'd always be like, oh, this is so nice to unwind, like when I'm driving around or whatever. And I'd listen to it in my house, my apartment. I would like play it, and I'd always be like, oh, this is so nice. And I'd always listen to the bass and be like, man, this guy's crazy. And thinking back to the flat wound strings on that first Guild bass, that was because of James Jamerson, who played with a high action and flat wound strings. So Danny Lilker had flat wounds, because as much as Danny plays extreme metal, he's also a well-schooled, old-school musical bass player as well. So, I just started getting into that, and then I started trying to figure out those bass lines, and they're so busy. You want to talk about playing like thrash hardcore? I mean, Jamerson went off. You know what I mean? And right. The thing about it is, every note has to be the exact note you need to hit, or it spoils the whole thing. Right. So he was so schooled that off the top of his head, he could come up with like a garden of flowers just off the top of his head. So I was very influenced by that, and I trained myself to a degree to play like that, even though it doesn't come automatically to me. But I've gotten better over the years.
Okay. When in the earlier years, what were some local music shops that you got some of your gear from, or even records?
As far as local music shops, I would go to like Sam Ash and buy strings or whatever in the early days, or there was a place in Whitestone, Queens over here. I forget what it was called, but I'd go there and buy some stuff. I would grub stuff a lot too. People would give me stuff because I didn't really have, like for example, I didn't have an amp until I joined Agnostic Front in 1987. So before that, I had like this weird little amp that I would use sometimes, but I would borrow equipment. So the late, great Chuck Val, rest his soul, whenever I'd have a gig, you know, he'd bring me his amp. And he'd be like, you want to use my amp? I'd be like, well, you're not playing. When he's playing, I'd say, yeah. I'd be like, you're not playing. He goes, I'll drive it over there. I'd be like, you really going to do that? And he knew. I would try to like half turn it down, but he knew I had no amp. And if there was nobody else playing that had anything good. So Chuck Val would always loan me his amp in like in like 86. And before that, Danny Looker would loan me his amp. So, you know, those guys looked out for me. So the equipment thing was just whatever you could get your hands on. You know what I mean? Never changed my strings back then, unless I broke a string.
Right.
So, yeah, and as far as record shops, all the old school record shops in Manhattan, I would tape trade when I was a kid in the early 80s. So I would tape trade with a guy in Holland, a guy in Japan, and I would get these obscure metal and punk tapes. You know, before 1983, it was metal. After 1983, it was like hardcore and metal and, you know, punk rock stuff.
Right.
You know?
Okay. What were some of the first songs that you wanted to learn once picking up bass?
It's hard to say what I wanted to learn. The first thing I learned was "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks.
Oh,
because
shit.
it was you know, it just taught you how to play simply.
Right.
And then I learned "NIB" by Black Sabbath. You know, not the bass intro. I learned the rest of the song.
I was like, damn.
And then my homework was, okay, kid. Danny was like, okay, kid, your homework is by the end of the year, this is the scale you're going to use. You know, this is the scale. And it didn't even have the full scale. It was like a box pattern. He's like, these are the notes you're going to use. And he goes, and there are bends in there. You know, he goes, so when it sounds like it's not that note, it's a bend. He goes, you have to figure this out close enough where you're in the ballpark. He goes, you don't have to exactly play because you're going to have your own style. So I had to figure out NIB, and eventually, you know, it took a little minute, but I play it all, you know, I play it at sound check all the time. It just sounds different every time because you know, it's a mess around.
Right.
But yeah, that was a big one for me. That was a big one. And also I learned other stuff like, you know, I learned I started learning those Iron Maiden bass lines on the first two albums when I was young because I liked the way he jumped ahead with the bass. The bass was in the front. It was aggressive. He pushed the beat with the bass, and he wrote songs around the bass. So for me, that was something that I really liked. And I love Motorhead as well. As far as the picking and strumming, it was a Motorhead thing. But early on, just to learn the scales and stuff, I learned those first two Iron Maiden albums, and those were cool. And I could play those first two albums back to back still to this day. And the first two albums with Paul Di'Anno singing, I tell people, some guys I know that are like old punk rockers, I'm like, yo, they're like, oh, Iron Maiden, that's all ghouls and witches. I'm like, listen to the first two albums. Yeah. It's like punk metal. It's great.
Yeah, that is it. That earlier shit for sure is awesome.
Oh,
and I mean, even some of the later stuff too. You know, like I mean, or mentioning, you know, like with Black Sabbath. Were you much into the Dio days or not?
I like all Sabbath.
Okay.
I love Ronnie James Dio was a great singer. I love this. I love like Old Rainbow. I love Old Rainbow. The stuff he did with Sabbath, I think, is great. They kind of reinvented themselves. So Dio, rest his soul, was he was like the king of metal, man. You kidding me?
Yeah,
that dude was like no joke. What a voice on that guy. Oh my god!
Right,
and he was such a humble, nice guy that everyone that I know that has spent time with him has said. And yes, I mean Sabbath. I would learn all those Sabbath lines. Geezer. I studied Geezer like, you know, I would play along to Sabbath albums. And the thing about playing along to Geezer, like you play to an Iron Maiden album, you can nail it down to the exact inflection of every note. You play to a Sabbath album, it's never going to be exactly the same because he's just scuba diving all over the place and you're scuba diving. You're never going to get the exact feel he has. But yeah, he's probably, as far as the way I play today, I'd say Geezer Butler is the biggest influence on me with the left hand. The left hand. And with the right hand, it would be Lemmy and Daryl from the Bad Brains.
And I guess getting into your tone a little bit with your this next question here, your bass breakdown. So it's going to be kind of broken up into like your bass guitar, the strings, pickups, pedals, and all that. But first, I'm just going to ask about what are you using nowadays as far as for your bass guitar?
All right. First of all, let me show you this. This is the secret right here. That's Red. Some of you know Red. And you see that little guitar with the stickers? I wrote most of the straight ahead stuff on that guitar.
Oh, shit.
And a lot of it on Red also. Red sits on my wall right here. and that's just an acoustic bass that I play around on. But yeah, there's Red. So Red is the secret. Red has a certain sound and feel. And when I play Red, the way I play, it has a sound. I've used other basses on certain albums, you know, and it never sounds like me. But when I use Red, everyone's like, wow, the bass sound. Like, whenever Red is used, it's always, so from now on, it's, you know, for the last bunch of years, it's always Red.
Okay.
So Red has EMGs. It's a PJ split. Okay. So that means you have like the precision style pickup offset from the pickup, and then a jazz pickup in the back. So it's a precision front and a jazz pickup, so that's called a PJ split, precision jazz split. I like maple necks, which are the light colored wood, and I use Ernie Ball strings and Ernie Ball 110 across the board. So it's 110, 90. So it's all the strings are of the 110 weight. In other words, 110, 90, 75, 55. It's not a lighter D and G. It's just thick because we tune to D. I used to use 105s, 20 years ago, and then when we started tuning lower, we tuned to E on the early Sick of It All stuff. To me, it sounds squeaky now. When I listen back, I'm like, why did we tune to E? Just because we were used to it. But as far as tuning to D goes, you get more tension on the strings. So I use Ernie Ball 110s. I love Ernie Ball strings. They're great. Okay. And they endorse me, which is another great thing.
Yeah, beautiful,
Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
What about that wraparound strap? Let's dig into that.
Okay. I could. Okay, well, we'll sidebar for that. Okay, so I have a problem with my back. I broke my L4-5 disc burst when I was in my early 20s. I was a furniture mover. Actually, Armand worked with me at the time. And I was carrying one of those 1960s sofa beds up a winding staircase. And those things are like hundreds of pounds. So I was on the bottom. Right. And I twisted with it going around the staircase, and my L4-5 disc burst. So all the jelly or whatever came out of it. So I still had to hold the couch and finish the day's work, which was incredibly painful. But, you can't, when a guy's up there, if I let it go, it's going to kill me and it's going to hurt him. So I had to stay there no matter, it's a furniture mover. It's a calling, I blew my disc out. So years later, it never really healed. I always had back problems after that. But I started getting numbness on my left side when I would perform, like 10 years later. My hand would be numb, my face would be numb, my ear would be numb. I would start squinting this eye because it was going numb. My leg would be numb. So I eventually invented that double type of strap because it's put the weight evenly on both sides. So it looks weird, and I can't get the upper body movement that I used to have with a single strap, but it also stabilizes my spine. So I invented that, and then I was gonna release it, but I never patented it because I was always so busy actually using it touring. And then some guy in Vermont or whatever stole the idea and patented it and released it, and
son of a bitch.
That's what people with people without like real soul will do things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Scumbags. Yeah. But whatever. Yeah. I could have patented it if I wanted to, but I'm more of a go out and do it guy than a sit back and play the sidelines when it comes to music. So there you go. Now, do you want to talk more about equipment?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The real root of what I use is an old Ampeg SVT. Okay. Nothing like an old Ampeg tube SVT head with the 810 cabinet. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the root of my sound. But that in the studio, that's what I'll use, an old VB4, an SVT, stuff like that. When Sansam started coming out, they invented the Sansam bass driver. Actually, Neil Osterberg was one of the guys. He was like the founder of it, along with the company. So he was like the guy that tinkered and put it together. So I used the Sansam bass driver. Before that, I would use different EQ pedals and try to just get as much out of them as I could. So the Sansam bass driver pedal, the old one with the one switch, I used that with an SVT. And live, I would use a Pro 4 because it was more controllable, because the tubes are too temperamental to be on the road. So, but recently, what I've done recently is I was told about Dark Glass, right? So Dark Glass is a company that makes pedals, and they said, hey, try this pedal, compare it to the Sansam. Well, I liked the old Sansam better originally, but then then like Joe from Rise Against and a couple of other people, particularly Joe, though, he was big on this. He goes, you got to try this Dark Glass 900 head. So they had a version 2 of it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And and the guy from Dark Glass, when we did this 2017 Warped Tour, gave me his card. Very nice guy. And I was like, all right, cool, let me call him. Well, you know, we were so busy touring, I never called him. And a couple of years later, we play in Chicago, and Joe's like, you haven't called that guy yet? You have no idea what you're missing. So I was like, you know something? We're playing in San Francisco next week. Let me call him. So I called the guy from Dark Glass. Very nice guy. He comes. I called the guy from Dark Glass. He brought down a head. I loved it. Now I use this Dark Glass 900 V2, and there's a specific way I set it up. It took me a long time to dial it in. Live, it's a great head because it has more mid-range. I'm able to get more mid-range out of it than I can even with the Ampeg and the Sansamp. The Sansamp takes away mid-range. Mid-range is your cutting frequencies. So live, I use this at least I did for about 6 months before this pandemic, this scamdemic thing happened. So for about 6 months before that, I was using that head, and I had, again, my friend Neil Zum, Osterberg, come down when we played New York, and he helped me integrate the Sansamp because I was like, it needs more low end. So we did like a special setup where we integrated the Sansamp, and the main thing I had to learn is with a Class D head, less is more. If you try to make your sound, I want a little more of this, and you go up, it takes away. So you have to come up to the limit and stay just below it. Otherwise, it takes away your sound. So I'm used to amps. You run them hot, you blast them, you turn it up, you push. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so I had to kind of almost like relearn from scratch. But that thing sounds really nice live. It's clear. It's punchy. It's a great live head.
Damn. Okay. I mean, and that's one thing. Anybody that, you know, if I mention your name to anybody in the hardcore community, the first thing is your tone. So, I mean, certainly it's awesome hearing all this shit just because that's the first thing is like, Jesus, there's nobody else in the scene that sounds like what he puts out.
It's my red bass and my hands, the way I play. I play a certain way. It's very percussive. I attack the instrument in a certain way. I mean, we're sick of it all. We play very, very hard. Like, we almost play too hard. But it makes you develop. Now, years ago, I pulled back and started playing relaxed. Just like in boxing. If you're tight, it doesn't work out well. So the relaxed playing, I still play really hard even though I'm relaxed. You know what I mean? So it gives the instrument a certain sound. And then you also, in the studio, you need a guy that understands what you're looking for. So we work with Tua Madsen a lot, and he knows what I'm looking for. And in the last couple records, we worked with Jerry Farley. And these are guys that I can have a conversation with about what I'm looking for, and they can reproduce just from the words I'm using. They understand. So they can say, how's this? I'll say, okay, let's try this. And they get it right where I want it, and we both play off each other as far as, because in the studio, what's coming out of the amp isn't what's coming out on tape. It's a different animal to get in the studio. I'm more of a live sound guy. So in the studio, you got to rely on the people you're working with also. My God, I'm talking fast.
It's all good. It's awesome. It's awesome, man. I
must have been that giant nitro coffee I had just before this.
Yeah, a little bit more of that water, my man. I think you'll be straightened out. Shit.
Yeah, lemon water with ice. Can't go wrong.
Beautiful. What is your pre-show ritual? You know, do you have certain stretches? Do you have do you just kind of sit and meditate?
It's basically we're all talking scratch to each other. First of all, I got Armand talking in my ear here, and then you got Lou throwing in his comments, and Pete's quiet over there doing his thing. So no, but seriously, like drink a lot of water in the day. You have to be hydrated. Don't eat too close to the show, which I tend to do, just because. Make sure dinner's 5 hours before the show. Dinner comes up 3 hours before the show. You get on stage and you're full. It's the worst thing in the world. It's totally brutal.
Yeah.
But I try. Anyway, you got to warm up. You got to stretch. You have to be well stretched, particularly your lower back and things like that. What's up, Evan? I just saw you jump in. What's up, Evan? That's my buddy Evan. He's a friend of mine. We used to box together.
Okay, beautiful.
I look at him these days and I think to myself, how did I ever climb in a ring and trade punches with this guy? He's a monster. What's up, Evan? Anyway, seriously though, you want to be warmed up. So what I'll do is I'll stretch before the show, and I'll shadow box because I used to box. So that'll loosen my whole body up. So stretching, shadow boxing, bouncing on your toes, getting your body loose, just getting ready to play. I do this with my hands a lot. I do this.
Sure.
I do a lot of loosening of my hands and my wrists. I kind of just stretch out. And like I said, the shadow boxing is good because you get rooted. Your balance is there. Your hips are under you. You know, your body moves. And if you watch the way I play when I'm moving around on stage, it's kind of like footwork from boxing and some shoulder movement. You know, it's a similar kind of style. So I'll do that. And there were times where I would take sublingual B12 about 20 minutes before we hit the stage, because then that goes into you and it opens up your capillaries.
Dissolves. Yeah.
I would do like a liquid under the tongue, and by the time you hit the stage, you have that B12 rush, and everything opens up, so you feel very strong. You know, so that you know, it feels good. It opens you up, and you know, there was I'll leave the other stuff out, but that's pretty much it. And like we all goof around with each other, and we do some dumb stuff. Like Armand does that weird thing he was talking about with his hands.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll all just do like a conga line of that, and we're just messing around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try to get in a good mood and be relaxed and have fun with it. You know.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, one thing that caught me off guard asking him about that was he was like, you know, recently I've been recently kind of working with trying to drink a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, really? Jesus.
I understand that. He loves to drink beer. But he's pretty responsible. He doesn't really drink before the show. He might have one in the afternoon, but he doesn't go crazy. But I remember when we were touring with Biohazard and Sheer Terror in like '93. And I remember Paul Sheer Terror, Paul Bearer, I was like having some trouble on stage. I was like, yeah, you know, I feel uncomfortable. Like, I was going through this. You go through these little mini phases throughout the decades, and he's like, try drinking. This is when I used to drink. I haven't drank in like 20 years, but he's like, try drinking 1 or 2 beers before you play, and don't think about stuff. And I'd be like, okay. So I would drink a beer, and I'd go on stage and feel great. It was just enough to like make me, like, I guess not self-conscious. I don't know if that's the right word, but it would make me like just not really be aware of the fact that here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything that's going on.
And then I tried 2 when I played sloppy. But like, so I get what Armand's saying. You know what I mean? Like 1 beer. The problem with Armand is though, once he gets to a certain point, it's like somebody drops like 20 bricks on it, like a bag of bricks on his head. He'll be fine until he gets to that point. So for him, it's like an absolute line. I would think he has to stay beneath. You know what I mean? Because the guy loves beer. The guy loves beer. You know that. You can't take it away. And he drinks good beer. Sometimes I'll take a little sip of what he has. It's always good.
For sure. And I mean, that was the thing, too, is some of the shit that he's talking about, you know, like looking at the percentage of it, I'm just like, man, oh, man, I can't imagine. You know, I've had a couple of times where I've messed up and I've drank before shows, and it's never good. So I was just like, man, and he hits hard as shit, too. I mean, he is one of the toughest players in the game. So I was just like, Jesus Christ, it's crazy.
He drinks that barley wine stuff. It's like 14% alcohol, even more, I think. I don't even know, but I just know, like, you smell it, and you're like, whoa, dude.
So something a little bit more recent. You guys have these. You guys have some quarantine sessions coming out, so to speak. Some recordings that you got going on. And Armand had mentioned that you have some B-sides that are going to be, or not maybe B-sides, but not songs that you play all the time. Do you have anything in particular, without any spoilers? Do you have anything in particular that you're excited about within that sessions?
Well, we've recorded 6 songs.
Oh,
and they're songs that we don't normally play live. You know, we have limited ability with equipment to record at home, so the drums are like, you know, like mono-tracked or maybe 2-tracked, I don't know, but like it's basically just like a mic in a room to pick up the drums kind of thing.
Right.
And, you know, it's all done at home. Like I put my bass tracks in like GarageBand. So you can't get exactly the perfect setup, and it's all one take. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, you hit play, you can't punch back in because you're the one playing. You can't stop and hit pause. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like a one take deal. So we did 6 songs. It's some new stuff. It's some old stuff. And I think it's really good. I like the way it came out. It's pretty fast and energetic. There are some, you know, it's like not perfect. There's like a flub here and there, but I think it's really good. You know, because Lou was talking about that. Lou likes to always push to like, hey, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. So Lou pushes in that regard, which is good because it kicked us all in the ass. And then once Armand jumped on and started doing the drum tracks, and you got Jerry in there like Jerry Farley. He's like, oh, you can do this, because without Jerry, we couldn't get that stuff done. You know, he's like our guy. So yeah, all 6 songs are recorded, and it sounds really good. You know, it's weird though, because like I laid down like okay, I'll tell you one song we did. We did the song Alone. You know the song Alone?
Oh shit!
The first album.
Hell yeah!
So we did it like we do it live. So there's an intro and an outro that's not on the record. And it's just like, you know, it's just this like bouncy beat thing, and I do like a bass line. So live, when we used to play that a long time ago. Live, I would just play something in E minor. You know what I mean? It didn't matter what I played, so I didn't even think about it. I just played off the top of my head. So when we recorded it, I came up with this bass line, and I was like, let me switch this up and try something completely unexpected. And I did it, and listened back, I was like, I got to not come up with something. I just got to play. So I had to redo that song, and I just do some simple stuff, but now everyone's like, yeah, that sounds better. So, you know, sometimes you try to jump in and do more, and it turns out to be less. In hardcore, you have to kind of know your place in a way.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Okay.
So you can do a little more, and you can take it a little further, but if you take it, you know, out of the sandbox and try to, you know, put a tie on it, sometimes it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, we did 6 songs. Alone is one of them, and I think it's really good. I'm excited. It'll be released soon. We did the Bulls Anthem video. We did that
was my
first.
Next question. Yeah.
What do you want to ask me? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, as far as how did your approach come up? At one point, you're cooking some mean ass looking chili. It looks like.
Not chili.
Okay, what is it then?
That's a sauce. That's a tomato sauce for pasta or whatever.
Oh,
yeah, it's a sauce. That's a sauce with fresh tomato, garlic, onion, fresh basil. That's a sauce. Because when we recorded the album, Jerry and I there was a ravioli shop like 3 blocks away. So Pastosa's Ravioli. So the joke was, I can get Craig to do his tracks fast. Just promise him ravioli afterwards. so our little joke is that, like, if you promise Craig pasta, you know, it's kind of true. So he's like, I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? I said, I could do it outside. He goes, cook a sauce. He goes, do a couple different things. I was like, that's a good idea. So as a joke, I taste the sauce and all that. It's just messing around, you know?
Oh, shit. I love it. I mean,
afterwards, I did eat a giant pile of ravioli, and it was great.
Well, luckily, I mean, you did your recordings beforehand, so you weren't too bogged out.
Yeah. Oh, once you do that, it's like, yeah, go record another one. It's like, no, dude, I gotta sit on the couch for 2 hours and then sleep for another 12.
Yeah, that video was awesome, though. That was so cool. And it's something different, you know, and I think that's something
Jerry's writing stuff right now. Spaghetti. Yeah, I love spaghetti too, Jerry. How you doing?
I know, Jerry.
Goody.
So if you could say, what's a Sick of It All track that never gets put in a live set list that you would put on if you had the availability?
There's a lot. My thing isn't one particular track. I'm the guy that always says, let's open with a song we've never played before. I want to flip it on its head like almost every day. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's fun. Play a surprise set. That's like the way it was in the old days. You play this song, that song. Mm-hmm. The other guys, particularly Armand, he's very structured. Mm-hmm. He's a very organized person. He's very like, this has to be right like this. And I understand this mentality. And, you know, if everything was my way, we would be a lot sloppier. But my like, you know, my sloppy slide in kind of screen door entrance is good because it pulls back from us being too stiff. So it all works together. But as far as a particular song, it's hard to say. I always want to switch the set, but in saying that, we'd have to learn new songs, get comfortable playing them. So it's a little hard. It's not as easy as the way I complain about. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so like, you know, and Lou's in the middle. Lou's like, I want to do a new song, but I also want it to come off. And Pete doesn't care at all. Pete just smiles at you and goes, yeah, whatever. Because he doesn't want to, like, he's like, he knows better. He's like, I'm not getting caught in this nonsense between these 3 guys. So he gets it. But what's that song? Never Measure Up. I like playing that song.
Okay.
We played that a couple of times, like in the last couple of years, because we re-recorded it for that outtakes thing, or not outtakes thing, the other thing, and I really like that song. It doesn't have a dance part, but it comes in it's just such a blast of energy that I just like playing. It's got the chords where I stop and I get to I get to do my little my flams, my pick flams. So that song always gets me excited. I always feel like really charged after playing that song.
Sure. And I think a cool thing too with, some of your albums is you have tracks like Bull's Anthem, you have America, where it pops out and it's something completely different, but it still works. It still blends too. And we had touched on
Bull's
America
Anthem.
too. And Bull's Anthem, when that came out, I was just like, oh my God, this track rules.
I love playing. That was a song that Armand wrote. He wrote that, and his concept was, the New York Red Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm going to write a song for the Red Bulls. I'm like, well, do they know? He's like, no, I'm going to write it and then present it to them.
Shit.
I'm
kidding.
Like, all right, cool. So he wrote the song, and then he did a demo of it. And he had Mitz, Brian Daniels, Mitz, who used to play in Madball.
Yeah.
So Mitz played guitar on it. So Armand and Mitz did like a home recording of it. And I was like, I listened to it. I was like, yo, this is a really good song. I go, we have to do this song on the next record. And his take was kind of like, no, it's too melodic. It's kind of weird. I go, dude, we could rock this. Yeah. It's just an anthem.
Right.
We do anthems all the time. So we wound up doing it. And to me, it's like such a breath of fresh air. And the vocal lines, and it's just really nice. And as far as the singing goes, it's in a spot where I'm super comfortable singing it. So, and Pete's really comfortable and Lou's comfortable, so it works,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't always sound super pretty because of the way we play. We're like bulls in a china shop, but it works. I keep telling them, I said, you got to write some more songs like that, We all write stuff that has melody. We all write melodic songs. I mean, you look at Step Down and Pete will write a song that has melody. I will, Armand will. We're all on the same page with that. But that one is like all melody straight through, sing-along, and I'm very happy with it. I really feel like it brightens up the set.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as, we could go on and on with talking hardcore and talking albums and music and stuff, but I know you're also passionate about boxing.
Yeah, as long as that coffee lasts, we can go on forever. Yeah.
I know.
I'm like shaking.
So, I mean, I know you're passionate about boxing as well. Just offhand, could you throw out a couple of your favorite boxers right now?
Roberto Duran, James Toney, Evander Holyfield, George Benton, Julio Cesar Chavez. There's a million. Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler. There's a million fighters that I absolutely. Ricardo Lopez. There's a million guys. I'm going to say Eddie O'Boyle, who was my trainer, and to a higher level than that. Like, he's a guy you never heard of, but it's, I got to give him his props because that's the guy that took me from being a guy hitting the heavy bag and sparring a little bit in the gym and made me like, yo, you can do this. And he kind of looked like he basically fucking just pushed me to a level that, skill-wise, I didn't think I could achieve. And it was all here. But anyway, my point is, shout out to Eddie. What's up, Eddie? My man. Anyway, my point is, I love boxing. I always loved boxing. I never had time to really dig into it because I'm a career musician. You know the deal, constantly on the road in the van, fly here, fly there, play. I'm always busy, but I always loved boxing, and especially when I was younger, I'd come home from tour. I was right in the gym the next day, training. I'd train, get beat up, sparring, and then 2 weeks later, I'd start to get in shape, and I'd start doing good, and guys would be like, yo, you're doing good. The gloves are coming up, fight. I'd be like, I'm going away. I'm not in shape. I can't, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, I don't have the time for all of that, So, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Did the best I could, and I got the respect of the best boxers in my area. So that, to me, was an accomplishment.
Means a lot, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where did it go from your interest in boxing and actually being in the ring to coaching?
What happened was my coach had moved away for a while. He relocated for a few years, and when he came back, when he was getting ready to come back, we were talking, And I was like, at that point, like in a bad way, I was like drinking and getting high and doing the things I shouldn't have done. You know, being a musician, living in a van most of your life, there are periods where you kind of, you know, get a little sloppy. You know, at least I have.
Sure.
And so he's like, yo, I'm coming back soon. I'll be living over there. You know, we should work out. And I was like, yeah. And he inspired me. So what I did was I cleaned myself up and started getting in shape. And December 21st, 2002 was the last drink or any type of intoxication, let's say smoking pot or whatever, I ever did.
Oh,
and
okay.
and the way I did that was by rededicating myself to the sport. So he came back and he was in tremendous shape because when he was away, he was training every day. So I came back and I became his training partner, and I got in tremendous physical condition because this man is a machine in his mental toughness and his physical ability. So I got in great shape. And training, sparring all the time, going in with good guys. Like, you know, he was seeing me like handle myself with guys twice my size. He was like, wow, this guy's pretty good. And I was sparring with another guy named James Lavin in my neighborhood who fought in the Golden Gloves a bunch of times. Very, very good boxer. And he was beating the hell out of me every week. So and he hit like a truck. So like, you know, when I would box guys my weight that were like just local guys that fought in the Golden Gloves, I really barely had any trouble with them most of the time because I was used to like getting beat up by guys that were like, you know, really dangerous. And I have a giant head, so again that helped me. And so at one point my coach Eddie said, hey, you know, I'm going to start working for this kickboxing guy out in Long Island. So
Okay.
he started working at this gym where they train kickboxers, and like they also train civilians. And that was the guy I gave the shout out to before.
Okay.
My friend that I was talking about. Hey, that's my buddy I used to box with. My friend Evan Bauer, great guy.
Okay.
Anyway, what's up, Evan? Anyway, so I started working there, and I came in and I sparred with these guys that were getting ready for like kickboxing fights, like amateur kickboxing fights, and I acquitted myself very well. And the guy that owned the gym pulled me aside after a couple of sessions, and he said, you want to work here? He goes, I see you, because I would also help my coach, teach the boxing class. I would like assist him, or I would go in and spar everybody. And the guy that owned the place, this guy Derek, he was like, you really have an understanding of technique and how to teach it to people. And so he offered me a job, and I started working there. Now, the reason he offered me a job is because I was Ed's guy, and Ed put the word in for me. So I got to give my credit and respect to Ed O'Boyle for helping me fulfill my dreams in boxing. Just at the level I was at, for me, that was a dream because I always loved the sport and I never had time for it, and I was 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out. So he kind of stepped me up and got me that job, and I coached at that place for this guy Derek. Then later on, I coached for Ed, and I would assist Ed with some of the Golden Gloves kids, and some of the guys that would be fighting. I would spar with them, and once in a while, I'd spar with some pros. And I absolutely love that sport. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's such a discipline, and it makes you reach so high, and the confidence you have to go in with some of these people and say to yourself, you can't hurt me. You got to worry about me hurting you. Right. And I came to realize that my mind, when I put myself to something, I have a very strong mind when I'm dedicated. So that helped me in a way as a man more than anything else ever did.
Okay, awesome. I mean, you know, when you were coaching...
Competitive Edge Athletics. That's the name that's the name of the spot.
Okay, shit.
So anyone that wants to check it out knows Competitive Edge Athletics. It's in New
Edge.
York.
Okay,
it's in Port Washington, and there's another one in Bayside. So you know which one it is.
Now, when you had kids coming in, what were some of your earlier like first lessons that you tried teaching them or tried making them understand, you know, that the shit isn't a game and that you have to kind of get your head wrapped around this whole thing because you can get fucked up fast.
Not everybody's going to fight. Not everybody's going to spar. You know what I mean? I mean, some people will tap around, but like real fighting, real hard sparring, you know, it's hard hitting. So basically, when I get somebody, I teach them footwork. First thing I teach them is balance and footwork. It's like almost like waltz moves. You got to learn how to walk. Mm-hmm. You got to learn how to stand, and then you have to explain to them certain things like when you're moving, how You can't lurch forward. You can't lurch back. You got to teach them how to lean to the side. If you don't lean to the side the right way, you're off balance. You know, when I first started sparring with guys, I tried to be a bull. I tried to be tough. You know what I mean? It was like the Tyson. It was like the beginning of Tyson, like the mid '80s. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, let me be strong. I'd go in and put my head down and swing hard, and I'd be leaning forward, and guys that knew what they were doing. Once I started boxing with like real competitive guys, they started hitting me with uppercuts and hooks, and I was getting my head ripped off. So I had to learn proper balance and footwork. You can't just rush in and swing. So I would teach footwork and balance, and then from there I would teach hand positioning. And, you know, that was stuff that Ed helped me with a lot because I used to be a little out there swinging wild. So all this stuff really came together, and over years I got proficient at it, you know, to a pretty good level. And really, when you teach people, it's about teaching them the fundamentals, and then once you see that they have the balance and the building is built right, then you can start teaching them how to put it together. And a lot of putting it together is what you're going to do. It's like teaching somebody a scale. What are you going to make out of it? You're going to play whatever you're going to make out of it.
Right.
I could talk about that all day. Like, you start talking about boxing, I love boxing. I could just keep talking about it.
Well, it's one of those things that I see because I'm newer to the sport. A couple of the guys in my band are just obsessed with boxing, and so, you know, we kind of get back and forth, and I start looking. And we started talking the other day, and you brought up Terrence Crawford, and one of the things that I appreciate and I see with him is the humbleness behind him. You know, he has interviews, and people are like, "Why don't you talk? Why don't you talk scratch? Why aren't you talking shit all the time?" He's like, I'm just going to go in and beat the shit out of him. I don't need to say nothing.
Student of the game. That's why I liked Evander Holyfield so much, because everyone would be like, blah, 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 and he was like, you keep talking, I'm going to go do my sit-ups and my road work. You know, when Tyson was chewing it, Tyson was like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what does it matter? We're going to fight. He's training. He's not he was the little man that could, and I love stuff. But then again, one of my all-time favorite fighters is James Toney, and he talks a lot of smack. But he talks smack in a way where, like, that's who he is. So he's like one of those just like Detroit tough guys that can back it up. So, you know, talking scratch for certain people is natural. For other people, it's just kind of corny. You know what I mean?
Right. And I guess I just see even in your character through your interviews and through different things that I've seen, you know, the integrity behind everything that you do and the passion, you know, behind everything you do. And as far as boxers as well, you know, from what I'm seeing, those are the guys that I draw to. And it's funny because we started talking about a couple cats, and you brought up Terrence Crawford, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, for sure, like, he's one of the cats for sure right now that is standing out.
He's so good,
just out of the humbleness of him.
You know what it is? You watch him. If you watch his fights, he sees something. He devises he can read the situation on the spot better than anybody. In other words, he can make adjustments according to things that you would never think of. I see him make an adjustment to something a guy's doing, and he doesn't let on, and then he touches the guy, and then he doesn't do it for a minute. He goes to something else. Then he touches the guy again, but he disguises it. And then he stops the guy with the same thing in the next round. And I'm just like, wow, this guy just hid that, yet tried it out, found the really hardest part is actually having that situation occur where you can use the things you're seeing. This guy can, like, make it happen in a way and adjust. Like that fight he had recently with I think it was the Eastern European guy, where he got stunned a couple times, and then he poured it on and stopped the guy. People were talking bad about him about that fight, right? They're like, oh, well, he had a little trouble, and then he had to like take the guy out. He had to get wild on the guy. I'm looking like he had a plan. His plan was getting upset by the guy. He tried a couple things, and then he realized, okay, this guy's going to be awkward and trouble. Let me get him out of here right now. And he got him out the next round. It's like, people are like, yeah, I'm like, dude, he's great. The fact that he read that situation and opted to take the guy out and take the chance instead of try 20 things and have an awkward fight, it's genius. The guy knew what he had to do, and he had the guts. And the fact that when he ripped into the guy, he stopped the guy.
Typically, it'll tell you it's got a minute left, you know, and it'll warn you. And it just we were talking, you know, we're talking shit talking, and the thing that shut it down on us, man.
The computer looked like this guy talks too much. Cut his throat.
But yeah, so I mean, we were just digging into Terrence Crawford and just some of the technique that he has and technique in boxing in general, and
Tremendous. The only fault I really see in him is he gets caught pulling out laterally. So but I've seen guys catch him with sweeping shots. Like he'll do something and he'll come out high, like he'll come out with his head up, and he gets caught with sweeping shots when he moves laterally a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to really say if that's a fault or that's just like something that happens when the guy's like mathematically like calculating so many variables and pulling off the stuff he does.
Yeah.
Right. But if you notice, sometimes when he comes out to the side, he gets caught with sweeping shots.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because he talks about, like now that he's picking up even bigger fights and doing, even bigger things. And they ask him, hey, are you going to add, some high profile cat to your team? Or are you going to do this? And he's like, no, I've got all the people that I need right here, man.
No need. Don't mess with it if it works. I think that I'd really like to see him fight Errol Spence.
Ooh, yeah.
Errol Spence probably needs a tune-up or two because he had the accident. But here's the thing with Spence. Spence is fundamentally so sound and so physically strong. Chris Algieri, who I know as he's an acquaintance, I'm friendly with him, knew him from the gym back in the day. He told me that when he fought Errol Spence, he said he had the strength of like a super middleweight. He goes, the guy was it wasn't even his punching power. It was his physical strength that the guy was like so strong that it was very difficult to deal with him. Because, you're trying to set up, and you get a guy stepping to you, and you can't really physically affect him, meaning like your physical strength. A guy can kind of maneuver as he wants. In other words, you watch him, how he stalks a guy. I'm guessing him being that strong, it's hard to displace him from taking that ground. Do you understand what I mean?
Right. Okay. He starts moving in, you're not going to get him back.
Algieri said he was so strong it was crazy. So I'd like to see how that strength does with Crawford, who's a guy that came up a division or two divisions lower, came up from lightweight, which is really one, but he came up from underneath. So I think that he's way more adaptable, Crawford, than Spence, meaning that he has more tricks in his bag. He's better at reading a situation and adjusting, but Spence doesn't need to adjust because he just needs to fundamentally do what he does, and he does it very, very well.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Another interesting fight would be if Crawford fought the guy Spence just fought last. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. Great fighter.
Yeah, I was just watching it the other day too. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That guy is great. That guy lost to a couple of the top guys. I thought that when he fought, what's his name, the guy that Pacquiao just beat. I thought that he beat that guy. The only fights I think he really lost was to the English guy. That moved up to middleweight and fought Triple G. I'm drawing blanks on all these names. And I thought that Spence edged him out in a very close fight. What the hell's his name?
I'd have to go back and dig too. Yeah.
He's a big welterweight with a big head.
Right.
Great fight. I'd like to see him fight Crawford because he's so physical. Would he be able to jobble Crawford out of his poised adjustments with his physicality, coming forward? I got to think of his name. It's driving me crazy. Right. How do I not remember his name? This always happens to me.
Yeah, when it's on the spot too, there's certain times, like a lot of times, I'll kind of keep some notes on hand and keep a couple of things, and then when it's just on the spot, I'm like,
somebody chime in and put the name. Somebody write the guy's name. I'm drawing a blank. Welterweight, top welterweight. He's a champ. He beat he beat the Spanish guy recently from Philly. A very good counterpuncher, that Spanish guy. What's his name again? Whatever.
Well, in the meantime, we're going to get into our finale question, man. Before I do that, though, I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the time. I appreciate, just everything. You've been a stand-up cat with this, dude, and it's been an honor, honestly.
Bulldoze you on this one, huh?
Yeah.
Is that nitro? Woof.
So this is your opportunity, though, to pitch and just kind of let everybody know what you got going on right now, my man.
I'm just, wanting to play shows. I want to get on tour. This is what I do. I don't know what's going to happen with that. The politicizing of this situation is very concerning to me, even though there is something there that can make you sick. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying now it's become a worldwide political thing. So as far as travel goes, you know, this is a problem. I play music. That's what I bet my life on, and I'm waiting for it to come back, and I'm going to try to force it to come back. But in the meantime, I did a collaboration just the other day with a couple of friends of mine, and we did a cover of Maladjusted. Couple of friends of mine. It's on Instagram. You can check it out. A couple of friends of mine approached me and said, "Hey, Jason Christopher and Roy Mayorga, those guys, they along with Craig Silverman from AF, they were like, hey, let's cover Maladjusted, because Jason wanted to sing it, you know, so he was excited about that, and I know Roy forever from New York, so we did that, and we did a little video, we put it out on Instagram, so we're gonna do some more stuff. I think we might do a Sabbath cover coming up, so I'll be doing that, and then all of these Sick of It All, and we might even like write some songs eventually, and then the Sick of It All, the 6-song release. That'll be coming out over the next couple of weeks, like maybe one a week or something like that. Sweet. And I'd like to continue to play. I'm thinking about possibly releasing some of my own material where I play every instrument. I'm not that great of a drummer though, but I might try recording my own stuff and dropping it out. It would probably sound it would either sound really like acoustic, or it would sound like early 80s punk done with bad drumming. Yeah. But we'll see if I get around to that. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. I mean, and you know, one of the things too I can say, and without embarrassment, maybe a little embarrassment, is I had never heard Creep Division up until doing the research for this, and Jesus Christ, that band is fucking awesome.
Oh, you like it? Cool. Yeah, it's fun. That's really fun.
I absolutely love that. I mean, I know you've mentioned before, you know, just kind of tossing around the idea with that, but is this project that you have going with Craig and Jason there? Is that something a little bit more recent that you think you're gonna take on just to keep yourself busy here?
Yeah, I think so. We talked about doing some other covers, and like, hey, let's do a couple covers, and then maybe write some songs and maybe make a band out of it and have some fun. So we'll see how that goes. As far as Sick of It All, we're gonna do those. We're gonna release that stuff, and I'm sure we're gonna the songwriting's gonna really start kicking in soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
And hopefully we'll be back on the road soon. Like I said, I fear that things like live music maybe, I don't know how to word this. I just fear that things like live music are not in the plans for the future for certain people.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the musicians. And that kind of thing, I really feel we can't let this situation take away our constitutional rights and make us slaves of fear. This can't happen. I'm not saying people shouldn't be careful. I'm not saying people can't get sick. And I have respect for anyone that has had a loss. I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm simply saying we need to remain a free people with the right to live our lives in the manner in which we choose. And time will tell how that plays out. But I hope that people understand what I'm saying and don't take it in a way where it's not intended like as offensive.
And I completely understand. You know, it seems like it kind of started off a little bit of a way where it was a little bit more, you know, sly and snake-like, and it's just becoming more of a obvious threat, I guess, to speak.
It's politicized at this point, and that's where the danger lies. People in power won't give up power, and there's a lot of ability to control people with the things that are occurring after the initial fact with this. So as a people, we need to forget about left and right and, you know, what party you stand for, and I don't agree with this and that. As a people, as the people of the world, we need to stand up and, while still maintaining respect for one another and care and caution, resume our lives with 100% freedom to travel, to not get a vaccine, to not have to be dictated to. The Constitution right now no longer exists. And is that, you know, maybe that's a coincidence with what's occurring. You know what I mean? But as we continue we need to have our Constitution fully reinstated. Yes, we do.
Amen, brother.
That's for the world. That's for the worldwide family. Someone just wrote something like that too.
Well, I mean, I agree, and we could probably get into a whole other damn interview about all of this too. But I don't want to take up your whole day, my man. I know it's precious. So,
Wallers ain't going. He's not going for it. Wallers, he's not going for it. No way. He got that scar fighting. See that? There you go.
Oh shit! All right, man. So this last bit, this is my my finale questions for you. All right, we're going with a hypothetical one here. So let's just say when all this clears up and they start, opening some shit back up, you're gonna book a festival, right? You're gonna book Craiga Fest. All right. So
a head fest.
Yeah, there you go, a head fest. Bam. And so
giant in parentheses in caption.
Oh my god, I gotta get this fucking question out. Oh my god. So Sick of It All is gonna headline this festival with 5 other bands, any genre, like I said earlier. But along with it, we're gonna go kind of like a gathering of the Juggalos type deal, and we're gonna go. There's gonna be some boxing involved as well. There's gonna be an outdoor boxing match, and you can book the main event. So
living or dead bands, living or dead fighters. What do we got going on?
All of them, man. If that's gonna make it easier, okay, we'll just say living. Shit, we'll just say living. So 5 bands, and we'll say 1 fight.
5 bands and 1 fight right now. Okay,
yep.
It's
any genre.
It's Sick of It All, obviously. I'm gonna put Wisdom in Chains on there because they're my boys and I love them.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna put Agnostic Front on there because they're my brothers and I love them too.
Beautiful.
Man, you're gonna. So that's 2 bands.
Wow. Two more. You got some hip hop. You got some. What do you got in your sleeve, man?
I'm gonna put Madball on there because they're my boys and I love them and they're a great band. You put them on there, the whole quality level of the show just jumps. As far as who else, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna invite people like Ezak and Richie Scam and just do a jamboree kind of thing. Get all the maniacs in there and just let them go wild. Just like hype the crowd up. It's like having a whole bunch of Flavor Flavs. Just bring them all down and be like, yo, you guys go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You guys go. Maybe get Vinny Paz to like kind of round them up and keep them half like making sense. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Right. All right. Sweet. So what would we do for a main event boxing match and all this?
I think being what we talked about, we're gonna have to go Crawford Spence. We'll go Crawford Spence.
Why not? I mean,
why not?
Absolutely. That would be. It's gonna sell out.
It's gonna sell.
That's gonna be a sellout, dude.
It's gonna sell. And on the undercard, we'll have an MMA fight. We'll have my friend Jared Flash Gordon fight because he's awesome and super exciting to watch fight. And good luck on the 15th, my man. He's over in Abu Dhabi fighting.
Hell yeah!
His whole corner tested positive for COVID. He has no corner people. So the commentator is his friend. And the commentator and another guy that happens to be there for the event, they're going to corner this guy.
Holy shit. Are you kidding? I didn't hear that.
That's a lot of glory right there. Jared Flash Gordon. Good dude. Great story. You read this guy's story and you see the mission he's on. This is a man to respect.
Damn. All right. I'm going to have to check in. I mean, that whole thing with the whole Fight Island is just, it's kind of, very sci-fi feeling. Like it feels like that's not real.
They're trying to make it happen, so that's good.
Yeah. I mean, by any means, I guess. Fly over to the island, then
you gotta go. Then you gotta go.
All right, man. I'm going to let you go. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. Thanks. I was looking forward to this. I saw you interview with Armand, and I was like, this guy's fun. This is going to be good.
Well, if we can figure something else out again, I'll have you on again, my man.
Whatever's clever, my man. Cool.
All right, buddy. You take care.
Thank you. I'll tell everybody, be well. Stick together.
Lo-Fi Horror Guy, Craig Setari. We're out. Take care. Be safe.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-Fi Horror Guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.